Hello again and welcome to Herd Immunity News. I'm Marcus Botter. Welcome to our Saturday Crime Specials. We have the great pleasure once again in introducing our friend Giovanni Di Stefano, better known as the Devil's Advocate. Let me just say, how are you today? Are you better? Are you ever over the COVID virus, Mr. Di Stefano?
Well, I haven't quite got over it yet, but let me tell you, last week, how the hell I did an interview, I don't know, but I did it. I hope that I said what I said. I stand by every word that I said, even though I can't remember what I. No, I can. That
Right.
it's. I feel a lot better now. It's taken 7 days. I've had to have 5 days of bed rest. Never in my life have I been in one place 5 days. I'm a nomadic lawyer there, but unfortunately. I had to stay put, and what better environment, than in Monaco there. So
Indeed.
my throat's a
Indeed.
little bit froggy, but we can get by.
We'll get by. And we've got an amazing story and tale to tell, and that is the one of probably the most famous or infamous prisoner in British penal history, and that is of Charles Bronson, originally known as Michael Peterson. And this case really is, it's films have been made about it, books have been written about this man. To some people he's a hero, to some he's a villain, but he got such a range as an artist, as a poet, as a musician, as a writer, as a workout expert in confined spaces, subject of films. He's a hero to so many notable people. Obviously, the 2008 Bronson film that was made with Tom Hardy obviously got the role and did an incredible job, whatever you think of Charles Bronson himself. Um, this man is known to you very, very well. Now, you've represented this man. You're very close with Charles Bronson. Can you just tell us a little bit about your involvement with him, please?
Well, first of all, what we should be saying is happy birthday, Charles, because on the
Yes.
6th of December 1952, he was born, and that's yesterday. So we
Ah,
wish him a very, very happy birthday.
yes.
He is, somewhat, yeah, I've just got water. So
Well, I'll raise that to him. Salute, salute,
Salute
and happy
there.
birthday.
So Michael Gordon Peterson, was born. He then changed his name in prison to Charles Bronson when
Right.
he was doing some bare knuckle fighting outside. And that's from the film of Bronson, The Street Fighter,
Mm.
there, where, a nomadic person sort of walks in, and that's a great film there. He's recently changed his name to Charles Arthur Salvador, not because of the artist Salvador Dali, but
Mm.
because it means savior. Salvatore in Spanish, in Italian, Salvatore means savior. Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated. That even for me to to understand,
Mm.
he was first jailed at the age of 22 for armed robbery. That's fine. He had a number of other criminal offences. Nothing really sort of to write home to mother about there. But in 1999, whilst he was in prison, he took hostage. Now, this is where it's really important to understand that, the law. He took hostage,
Mm.
a teacher for a period of 44 hours. It's also very, very, very important to understand that he was convicted of false imprisonment, which is a common law offence, not a statutory offence. It's a common law offence,
Mm-hmm.
causing criminal damage, some silly things in the cell there. But what many people do not know and do not understand, he was cleared of threats to kill. Now, this is 1999, and he was
Mm.
sentenced in 2000. Under Schedule 19 of the Sentencing Act 2000 and the recommendations of the Sentencing Council, the offence of false imprisonment has high, medium, and low, capacities. I made an application to the CCRC saying, look, wait a moment, Michael Sam's a far more dangerous person than Mr. Bronson,
Mm-hmm.
has committed a similar offence, and he only got 8 years. Well, a guy called John Wagstaff at the CCRC, who had no love for Giovanni Di Stefano, the devil's advocate whatsoever. He deplored any application that I made to the CCRC. And what we had to do, I just deviate 1 second, to get Kenny Noy's case to the CCRC so that it didn't come from me and we would get a referral, I put it through our friend Henry Milner. So Henry Milner sent my application of Kenny Noy to the CCRC on the difference of how many stab wounds that that there were in Mr. Cameron there, and the efficiencies of Michael Heath, the pathologist, who said there were 2 stab wounds, and when I looked at the crime scene, there was only actually ever 1, which does make a difference in intention there. If you and I are having a round, I stab you once.
Yes.
That's one story. If I stab you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, that's a different story. Yeah. Anyway, we got refused, but that's there. There under the Sentencing Act 2020 and everything, there are these 3 separate that, and I believe that the judge did not properly take into account when sentencing him to a discretionary life sentence with a minimum of 4 years. So by rights, I mean, he just wanted to make sure that Mr. Bronson was okay, for release there. And the mechanism for release to be okay, of course, is the parole board, which is, a creature of statute. The parole board was codified in the 2003 Criminal Justice Act there. So it has its own functions and everything. Recently, people like that perpendicular Ponce Dominic Raab, has tried to usurp his position and intervene with the parole board. Thankfully, Alex Chalk, grazie a Dio, a man who is a real lawyer, a proper KC, a practicing that, and a decent person there, has had to override a lot of the stuff, a lot of the harm that Raab did to the criminal justice system. And I hope and pray that Bronson is a creature of what we have created. One of the submissions that I made to the parole board when I represented him, just to give you an example, the parole board require psychiatric evaluations, medical evaluations, social evaluations. Do you know how the doctor used to see Mr. Bronson, how he would examine Mr. Bronson? How would you think that a doctor would examine Mr. Bronson if it was to be done properly? Have a guess.
How he would examine him is face to face, like a GP would see their patient across the desk and have a good examination.
How did it really happen? How did he really examine him? Through the glass. He examined him through a glass. You couldn't even put a stethoscope there because, and I said to the parole board, and David Martin Sperry, who represented, said, the way that we have treated Mr. Bronson says more about us than him. Even the most placid dog, if you keep kicking that dog, kicking, at some stage, he's going to bite you. And yes, okay, Mr. Bronson is a violent man, but look at his age now. He's recently lost his parole, bid for parole.
Yes.
I actually believe that parole may not be the way ahead, and that may be what we call a CPR 3615, Criminal Procedure Rules 3615, allowing the Court of Appeal to re-evaluate the case directly without the CCRC and have a fresh sentencing exercise, may be the way ahead. Now, who was the one that promoted, who initiated CPR 3615 for people? I'll give you one guess. Who was the one that...
idea. Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Giovanni Di Stefano.
That's right. There is the case, of RV Giovanni Di Stefano, where I found the criminal procedure rules and found an input how to get back to the Court of Appeal without this blessed CCRC there, because they are, they're doing their best, but their best is not good enough. They are not fit for purpose. And primarily because they're underfunded, understaffed, and have staff that are not really up to the scratch of reviewing a criminal case. They take forever. and that. But having said that, they're doing their best, their very best, with very, very little money. So the government looks nice, looks really great that they've got a CCRC and a Scottish CCRC, which actually is funded more than the British one, with like only 10% of the people. But
Yes.
Bronson's case is one that urgently needs to be reviewed, not for whether he's fit for release, but whether he was properly sentenced to a discretionary life sentence. Yes, false imprisonment
Right.
does carry, it's a common law offense. It does carry a
Well,
life, but how many people actually get
well,
life? Not many. Not
let
any.
me please play the devil's advocate. Let me turn the tables
Ooh.
around and be the devil's advocate. Now you're someone else just for a second, if you can imagine
Okay.
that. Now they're contending, that's the parole boards and the Home Office, they're contending that Charlie is a danger and a threat to society. And what they're using as their go-to on this, and they use it each and every time, is his conduct inside the prison. He obviously has issues with authority. That can be in no doubt whatsoever. And
So do I.
Yeah, but to what extent and to what degree? And
I'm more dangerous than Bronson because I use my brain. I don't use my fists. I'm too old for that there. Remember, in my case, the police officer, which we've released the tape, said, if he could do this to me, what could he do to the legal system? My case was never about victims or so-called victims. It was about the legal system. So I'm equally dangerous in a different way.
Let me develop my point a little bit further, if I may. In an interview that Charles gave himself, he was talking about an experience when he was released, and I think it was him and his late father, God rest his soul, went into a cafe, one of these motorway cafes, and he said when he went into the toilet that he felt like everybody else in that toilet was ready to attack him. So he wasn't ready, and he wasn't in a situation coming from where he has, and there is no denying whatsoever that there's a person, that man has been created by the society that he has been involved in. We all are. He's a product of his environment, you could say. But the reason I'm playing devil's advocate is to try and offset all of these things that have happened. And that's the big challenge that he faces right now, or anyone else does, when they're sitting in front of the panel, when they're sitting in front of the parole board, but he's not anyone else. I think if I can say what's really pissed off the authorities is because he has become this cult hero. They want to make an example of him. And that is why he's being persecuted in this way and being made an example of. That's my case.
Well, your case is absolutely correct. Because of the high profile prisoner that he is, we have a similar case, Terry Smith, which we can discuss at another time there.
Yeah.
He wrote the book, The Art of Armed Robbery. And in that, of course, you know, he got an IPP sentence of 10 years. He's well over the tariff there, simply for following in a car without any arms or anything, a van. And they said, well, you were planning a robbery because you've written a book. I mean, so the higher profile case that you have, the more the authorities will punish you as an example to potentially to others. But let me put this to you about dangerousness. That, of course, is covered in the Criminal Justice Act there. And dangerousness is something that the parole board do have to consider, and quite rightly have to consider.
Yes.
But if the product of dangerousness is the state itself per se, how in God's name can you then injunct and restrain a person from being released because you have created him the way that God created? It's said in the Bible, Adam and Eve, man and woman. So who the hell is to blame when man, you know, screws up? You know, that apple that Eve tempted him with there, who's to blame? Do we blame God? No, we don't blame God, but man is still around there. So, you know, in my view, Bronson simply needs to be released. Yes, he may give someone a slap, but let me tell you something else too for the people listening to this. There are 320 murders each year in the UK. Every single one person who has committed murder there is dangerous, is extremely dangerous. And in most of the cases, the signals were there, but they're still out.
Oh, listen, I agree. The two-tier system, policing system that we've got in the UK right now is absolutely disgraceful. And he, you know, in the right circumstances, Charles Bronson would be a fantastic neighbor. He'd be a fantastic person to have in your community because he's a tough guy. He would make sure that perhaps the vulnerable people are looked after. I'm not saying that he's going to be a vigilante like Charles Bronson himself during the Death Wish movies, because he's never killed anyone. He's never really seen it. He's never hurt any children. He's never hurt any women. And God forbid he got his hands on anyone who had hurt women or children. He is.
There would be problems.
There would be big problems. And he is. That's why he's a hero to so many, many people, because all of this, the bad times for him have really happened when in incarceration. He's obviously massive issues with authority, as I do, as you have. There's no doubt about that. When you're being picked on, when you're being bullied, and when someone wants to take.
That's correct. You've hit the nail on the head. Why do we need this interview? You just make a statement. You've just said my words.
Sorry,
there.
I could never say your words, dear friend. This is a Christmas
absolutely
special.
Perfect. The case of Bronson, starting the first thing that I identified was the medical report conducted through a glass. That to me spelt trouble. How in God's name can you test someone for tuberculosis, for bronchitis, for lung thing through the glass, which is, some several inches thick as well? Yes, of course, there is the risk that he might attack, there. But whenever, for example, on bail applications in the Central Criminal Court, Judge Lowry or Nina Lowry or Richard Lowry, they would say, well, he might commit further offense. We might all commit further offences. You may go home and find someone in bed with your wife and kill them. I mean, everybody has the potential to violate the law and break the law. But does it mean that we have to restrict their movements for that? Because if we do, the whole damn country needs to be in jail.
Surely they could have accommodated him in some way. They could have had him in some sort of restraint so the doctor can get near him. I mean, there's definitely a way they could have done that, but that's obviously because they're full of animus for the man. And I don't think they've ever forgiven him, personally speaking. I just make the quick point on Broadmore, 1983. Yes. I mean, the world was watching and the authorities were very, very unhappy. That's putting it mildly, to the 1983 Broadmore riots. And at this stage, I do a bit of production and put a picture in. And there's lots of pictures of Charlie up on the roof waving to the press and the cameras. Millions of pounds of damage being done, but this is what happens sometimes when you piss people off.
Well, that's right. As I said, even the most placid dog, if you keep kicking that dog, at some stage, he's going to take a chance and bite you. And when he finds that he's not just an ordinary terrier, but he's a bulldog, he's going to build his muscles and say, okay, that's how the state want to play with me. This is outrageous. It is not the Britain that I came to in 1961. This is not the Britain. This is vindictiveness on the behalf of the state. That is not part of the criminal justice system. Retribution, rehabilitation, and redemption. The 3 R's are the most important in criminal justice. I keep selling it to judges. Retribution is this prison sentence. Rehabilitation, which is part of the Prison Act 1952, which is completely disappeared, but Alex Chalk is doing his best to bring it back. And finally, redemption, because Marcus, if you can redeem a mortgage, you can bloody well redeem a man or a woman that's gone wrong. That has always been my ideology. And when I taught just 10 years ago at the American University in Rome, gave a guest lecture. And that's the point, that I made. Those 3 R's, if you want to be a lawyer, you need to remember those 3 R's.
Indeed. And I'm sure we do get lawyers watch this program to glean information from you and your experiences. But when a lawyer is sitting down with his client and his client is incarcerated, he's going to be telling him or her to keep their nose clean, stay out of harm's way as much as they can.
I
exactly.
sent you a letter, which I
Yeah,
sent to Charles Bronson when we had the parole board adjourned for 2 months.
right.
And I urge upon you to display and show that letter in this thing there. Page
Mm,
2 clearly says, in the meantime, I know you're angry and frustrated, but I am asking you very kindly to behave yourself and not
mm,
react. And you know what he did?
mm.
He followed my advice. He didn't
Exactly.
do anything, he followed because he had a person
Hmm.
that asked him not. I never for one moment, I met him a couple of, never for one single second felt threatened. If
No.
anything, I felt protected because ain't no one coming near me
Yeah,
with Charlie Bronson around there, with
that's right.
ulterior motives there. And I can say that for most of my so-called dangerous clients
Yeah.
there. I have some very, very interesting people, Romanians, Albanians, especially there. I've always felt very, very protected, not threatened
Well,
there
they under
because my intentions are
yeah.
pure.
Well, they understand you do not bite the hand that feeds you or the hand that helps you and offers you that support. And I feel that I feel in this case that Bronson has become an enemy of the state and a hero of the people. He's put up there with only really the likes of the Cray twins, Reggie and Ronnie Cray, and to a lesser
He loved
extent,
the Cray twins, he told me. He told me that they were his
exactly.
best friends there. He has become, if you pardon the phrase, the
Yeah.
William Wallace.
Yes. Well, look, and you put him 1,000 years ago, and he would have been a leader. He would have
He
been
would.
fighting against the sheriff of Nottingham. He could have been a Robin Hood type character because he would not be bullied, and he put his life on the line for his fellow man.
And I was asked by Italian television the other day
Yeah.
here in Monaco, would you do everything that you've done again all over? I said, yes, I would, because I don't consider that I've done anything wrong there. So if I have to
Mm,
be punished a million times for something I haven't done, what is a man if he's got nothing, if he has no dignity, if he has no stamina, and if he hasn't no gravitas there?
mm.
If you believe in something, you have to follow that belief, to the end.
Yeah.
And now,
That's
after
the
many,
army.
many years of what's happened to me and many other people like me,
Yeah.
the truth is very slowly coming out. It takes its time, but I got time. There's people's destinies are their destinies. What the state fear, though, let me tell you, I was talking
Mm,
to someone at the Ministry of Justice the other day, not only on Bronson's case but on Terry Smith's case. They fear that if these people die in prison,
yes.
that is something that is counterproductive to the criminal, because what the press will do, that they will say he should have been released. They'll find. Now, I can't re-emphasize that in the 1999 hostage taking,
Right.
yes, he did wrong and he did that. But let
Yeah.
me tell you what he also told me when I spoke to him about it. He
Mm,
said, but Gio, he said, I offered him my fucking pineapple. He said, I would never have offered him my pineapple that
well.
to eat if I wanted to really hurt him.
Well.
And that's what swayed the jury into clearing him for threats to kill and that. You
Yes.
see, the offence of false imprisonment,
Mm,
again, de jure, is an offence which can attract a discretionary or a life sentence. Michael Sams, who's far, far, far more dangerous,
oh
a
yeah.
billion times more dangerous and more evil than Charlie Bronson, did a similar thing and got 8 years, a fixed sentence. So,
Look.
the way ahead for Charlie is now to review the case by CPR 36 15
Mm,
and go straight to the Court of Appeal there. But he recognizes himself that he needs assistance
mm,
when he's out. And let me tell you something as well from my part, from Giovanni Di Stefano, the devil's advocate. On the 28th of April of this year, when I was released, I had I couldn't, I was in a 5-star hotel in Rome. I had difficulty sleeping on the bed because it was too comfortable. It
mm.
was too big, too large. I had a problem eating with knives and forks made of metal. All these things. I had a problem with the distance of walking there. I had a problem with my eyes because I'm seeing different colors.
Mm.
I had a problem with my nose because I'm smelling perfume. In British prisons, women, female prison officers are not allowed to wear makeup or perfume. So you miss all of that. And, mine is only a quarter of what Charlie has done, you know, and he's done it in very, very Spartan conditions. Mine were, you know, with pardon, people won't like, but you know, mine was, you know, a climatized room. Or, you know, we had plasma TV, you know, we had all the channels, DVD, you know, we had shower, you know, everything, telephone in the room, everything that old age pensioners don't have.
Charles is in a cage within a cage. In a
That's right.
maximum
They built it
security
specially for him, Maudsley, who was a cannibal, and someone else there. And he told me there's some great. And if you want to know more about Charles Bronson and everything, and my defense of him and everything,
yes,
you have to watch the documentary which we're making. You know, defending the indefensible there, and buy my book.
And buy the book, and it'll make a lovely Christmas present as well. That book,
well,
because yes, on you go, Giovanni.
I mean, there it is. But for Charles Bronson, he changed his name, because he wanted peace, and that should have been the first signal for the state to have rewarded him. Because remember, with children and prisoners and people, you can't always penalize, punish. You have to award something. One of my children here stepped out of line a little bit there, so I've had to have words with him. But also, I cannot just keep punishing him. I have to also award. He behaved himself in an exemplary manner with me.
Yes.
There, he drove, you know, the car nicely. You know, he looked after me. So I have to take into consideration what sentence I'm to impose on him. Exactly. You know, with his conduct, and it's a very light one. It's got to be
carrot and stick.
But
it can't be all stick. There's got to be some carrot and stick in there, and it's like a football manager. Some players need a bollocking and a rollicking. Other players need your arm going round them to get the best out of them. Charlie is definitely somebody you want to put your arm around if it's okay by him. But so his next step from here is he had a very unfortunate last parole hearing, and there was involvement in some duplicitous people. Let's call them that.
Put it mildly.
To put it mildly, someone there was false pretenses that this character turned out wasn't his son. He claimed he was his son, and he was a journalist, and he was looking to make good. He's saying that they were in on it together.
Despicable on a person that's already, you know, suffering. Because let me tell you, Bronson is suffering. He suffers. You know, you'll pick it up from the voice interview. That, you know, from the telephone there, how he speaks to me there.
Hello. Right. Okay. And the Durham cage, Giovanni. Okay, just say through that one more time, so I want to make a note of it. Please, there. You are Charles Bronson.
Yes.
Correct. Please tell me again. Please say that one more time. You're calling from HMP.
I'm calling from HM Prison Wakefield.
Okay, and you say that approximately in December 2001.
Yeah.
What happened?
Two very official geezers in suits come to my cage door. The screw opened the door,
right,
and left them there, and I was still behind the cage door, and they was pretty friendly, and they sort of said, "Listen, do you want to get out or don't you?" I said, "Well, of course I want to fucking get out." I said, "Anyway, who are you?" They said, "Well, it don't matter who I am, who we are. We've come to put a deal to you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Look, are you prepared to do us a favour?" I said, "Well, what are you on about?" They said, "We want you to go to Belmarsh Max Secure Units, the SSU, and they want me to mingle in with the Islamic Ramans there and get some information." And I said, "Listen, get away from our fucking door," and I spat at one of them. And as they was walking away from the door, one of them said, "That's the worst fucking thing you'll ever do in your life, Bronson. That's going to cost you a lot of years." And I've never seen them since. I don't know who they are. And when the screw come back to close the outside door, I said, "Who the fucking hell are them?" He said, "I don't know."
And that would have been around about December 2001.
It would have been about that time, yeah. And and I must say, it was at that time when my name was officially Hamid. I was then known as Ali Charles Hamid because I was married to a Muslim lady.
Got it. Oh, this is very, very, it's important information. Today is the 10th of May. It is now 1914, 7:14 here in Italy, and it's 6:14 in England there. Charles Bronson from HMP Wakefield making a statement regarding the situation that occurred on approximately December 2001.
Yep.
That's correct. And you stand by that?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, and from that day onwards, you've had nothing but troubles in the prison system.
They're just not letting me move on. And I honestly believe that incident has got something to do with it.
No, well, I mean, I understand now. I mean, thank you for telling this. We will see each other on Monday. There, you'll see me on video link there, but we'll see each other and we'll discuss this matter there. And remember that there's a young lawyer that's coming to see you from a local firm of solicitors. He will bring you the advice and the submissions made by James Lewis Queen's Counsel there, and those are quite spellbinding. Those there, and you'll be able to see yourself that you should have had a lawyer present at all times. Now, am I correct in saying the reason you dismissed your lawyers before was that they were not allowed to have contact with you and they couldn't see you properly? So you thought, to hell with it, if I can't be properly represented, I'll do it myself. That's what you told me before, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm sick of seeing people on close visits.
No, I mean, quite right. Charlie, thank you very much, my friend. God bless you, and we will hear each other again. We'll see each other on Monday on there, okay?
Fantastic.
I'm going to get to work on this. All right. God bless you. God bless.
Take care, Giovanni.
God bless. Ciao, ciao. Ciao.
And all the bravado-ness, I was suffering as well. I mean, I put a great brave front on and this, that. But deep down, you miss your family.
Of course.
He has family there.
Look,
he's been exploited by women that, just wanted that 15 minutes of fame there. And it's now time. And I think what I might do now, having spoken to you, I might just, talk and send a message to Alex Chalk to now consider the prerogative of pardon. Because that, as I said to you, retribution, rehabilitation, redemption. Yeah. The fact that the parole board said no doesn't mean that you can't be released. It just means the parole board said no.
Contributions that this man can give to society are massive. People can learn from him. Youngsters and oldsters can all learn from his experience. From his art seems to be a way that he can lay everything else aside, the pain, the hurt, the aggression that he feels to those that have done him wrong. He can suspend that because he's so involved in his art, whether it be his paintings are incredible. I think it's absolutely incredible. He's got the mind of a genius. His artwork is explicit. And if he could just be left to get on with that in some remote island somewhere, I could see him in a beautiful Scottish island somewhere, and his friends and family can go visit him, right? Not like Napoleon. I'm not suggesting that he'd be sent
Or
right
like
to
Captain
Elba.
Dreyfus.
Exactly.
Island.
A lovely Scottish island somewhere where he can be left in peace. The people that love him and care for him can come visit him. And that way he can readjust nicely. So he's not
and
put
he needs to do that. You cannot release this bird just like that.
Exactly.
It needs to be done in stages. He needs a cat D for a year and then, get accustomed to it. Because remember, that option is available to the Secretary of State at any time. He doesn't need the parole board for that. He can order that there. And if this man dies in prison, it will be much, much worse for the state, because you'll have a lot of the journalists starting to question why he was given a life sentence in the first place when people like Sams got 8 years for much worse. And he was clear of threats to kill. So if you haven't threatened anybody, according to the Sentencing Act 2000 Schedule 19, and you can look at that there, and the Sentencing Council there, you have high, medium, and low. His fell into the medium because, yes, he did something. He did but he didn't. It wasn't so much as what it could have been. So the sentencing guidelines say between 2 and 12 years, not 40 bloody years, and still
Indeed,
there.
and indeed, and like a lot of people you've represented, you must sit down and say to them, look, when you get out of here, don't avoid the clubs, avoid the casinos, avoid the bars, avoid being in the places that are going to make you react because someone's staring at you, or they think you're staring at you, because they'll want a name. When Charles Bronson gets out, they'll want his name, because it's like Highlander. If they can cut off his head and take all his power, then they're now the governor. And he doesn't need any of that. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. He's as tough as they come. He's as hard as they come. He backs down from no one. But he wants to be left alone to do his art and be with people that he loves. I think, in my estimation.
But he's also 71.
He's 71-year-old man. I mean, he's done his time. I've not really taken a massive amount to look at his case over the years. It's from our interactions, and it's really about justice. This is about justice, isn't it?
It is. You know, justice has to be seen to be done, not just done. And in this case, it's nowhere near there. Yes, he deserves something. You know, if he'd have got the maximum of the 12 years, that might have just, because he was already a serving prisoner, which is an aggravating offence there. But so was Michael Sams. Why should Sams get 8 years and him get a life discretionary? Yeah. The judge never wanted him to spend more than a few years in, because he was cleared of the main offence, threats to kill. And another thing that not many people know, which I have to say to the viewers, the teacher received no compensation from the prison service. That zero. The prison service fought the teacher to the bitter end. Now, not many people know that, but it is a factor to be taken into consideration post-sentence, because if the prison service say, and the whole point of why Charlie took him hostage was that he slagged off one of his paintings. He was not allowed to run these, you know, the defense of duress or provocation. Yes. The judge prohibited that, which means you effectively have no bloody defense there. Michael Sams was. So you see, there you have your differentials in treatment by the various courts. That's what the Court of Appeal are there for. They're there to put things right, and instead they haven't. They are intellectually bloody dishonest, and it's time that they pulled their finger out their backside and became the Court of Appeal that was founded in 1907 to right wrongs. That's what it was founded for, to right wrongs. When the hell are they going to get back on track? I keep saying it, and I know that they don't like me saying it. I know my friends there, Rabinder Singh and all, Lord Justice, you know, Chris Rose has retired, even though that many of the judges don't want to be in the Court of Appeal because they have to toe a line that they don't want. You need a proper Court of Appeal, impartial, without any political interference, and to be able to run the course. And if they have to release every single person that appeals, so be it, because it is better than 10 guilty men, you know, go free than one innocent man be in prison. That's a maxim that is impounded into you at law school, but it's not applied, and it's high time.
Benjamin
now, finally,
Franklin.
about Bronson,
yeah,
singing. He loves music. I've got nearly 20 of his paintings that he kindly sent me. He would send me in big tubes in Rome, and they would, you know, I've got those, and I'll treasure them. Yes. I'll never sell those. I've been offered money. I'll never sell them. Even if I was starving, I won't sell those there. But his music, we recorded My Way on the telephone there, where he sang it. He loves Italian music. I produced a wonderful song, Ti Innamorerei, with Chrissy Kane and Alex Romano, which I've sent you. And I sincerely hope, because I'm going to send the recording of this to Charlie, we'll put it on DVD and send it to him. We can play out that, because he loves it. You know, he sits in his room there and he listens to the music, and that 20 seconds of that won't do that, and he will love that there. And I call, and many others behind me, for him to be shown compassion. Yes. And to be given, at the very least, category D, so he can reacclimatize himself back into society, and then to be considered for release. I mean, he's more than pensionable age, you know, and it's time that the state has to show compassion. Otherwise, it is a rogue state, and we don't want Britain with that title, even though many people think it has.
there has to be a deal cut. There has to be a great deal cut that suits the states, so they're not totally humiliated and embarrassed, even though they should be. There has to be some sort of compromise and some sort of deal done between the two.
Cat D, 1 year of category D open prison. You know, then you take a parole board hearing. They'll give you another 6 months a review to see that you've really been able to adjust. You know, in category D, it used to be you had to wait 3 months lay down before you could go out. Now it's 28 days.
After I'm talking after the Cat D, they won't want.
Oh, after he needs,
no chat shows. No chat shows, no reality TV, no I'm in the jungle. They don't want any of that. And if those assurances can be given, then they're more likely to go ahead and actually show some mercy.
Well, I think you're right on that, and that's something that can be encompassed.
Yes.
But it's difficult to put it in a parole license because it's unlawful to deny a person the right to seek a journalist.
Of course. But I'm talking about with a nod and a wink.
With a nod and a wink. I think that, that Charlie could be persuaded that for the first couple of years. I mean, when I obtained the release for Ronnie Biggs I remember after about 6, this is incredible. You're never going to believe that. I got a call from the Home
For our
Office.
viewers, that's the great train robber Ronnie Biggs that did a bunk from Wandsworth and lived most of his life in Brazil.
That's right. But I got him out on compassionate release there because he was really ill there. So we might be able to do something on him in due course there. Yes. But after about 6 months that, he was out, I got a call from the Home Office, which was then dealing with this case, not the Ministry of Justice, and said, Mr. Di Stefano, I note that Mr. Biggs is not dead. I said, well, you know correctly. I swear on my father's tomb that this is what I got. I was in Nice at the airport when I, and I thought that it was a prank, but it wasn't. It was from the office of the Secretary of State of the Home Department. Said he's supposed to be dead. I said, well, who the hell are you? I said, God decides when he dies, because under the compassionate release, one of the criteria is that you have approximately 3 months or 6 months of life before that. But I mean, I said, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go and shoot him? And that's to satisfy you or that. Said, no, but we're just noting that, he's not dead yet. Said, I think that this is absolutely appalling. Now, the Black Widow, that also, not Linda Calvi, Trigwell, Ethel Trigwell, I got compassionate release for her. She had breast cancer and she did die within 6 months. God bless her soul there. The criteria is that. But hell's bells, the state calling me and saying he's not dead, making an observation. It is effing appalling. I was appalled. I'm appalled now that I remember the call, picking my suitcase from the baggage, at Nice. And that's what we don't want, with Charlie Bronson. We want him left alone, but we want him guided, a telephone number that he can call, given a mobile phone that he has. I probably wouldn't know how to use it.
And he likes letters. He likes people to write to him. He appreciates Christmas cards. People can write to him. We'll leave links if there are available. If you want to give me any links, I don't know if he wants mail, if he likes reading letters from people. I'm sure he must do. You had
he likes the support, but what he doesn't want is he doesn't want any support that denies him the possibility of, because he wants to be released. And there's no reason why he can't be released at the next parole hearing or given a category D, a year in category D, a review in 6 months. And by the time that he's 75 or even less, 73, 74, he could be released into a halfway home there to approved premises. Because that's the normal step for someone, on a life sentence. You do Cat D, approved premises, and then your own premises, which the state pay for. And hopefully you manage. A little bit like the Shawshank Redemption there. You see in America, it's not much different there. And incidentally, let me tell you how many recalls there have been this year. More than 25,000 people recalled to prison for violations of parole license. And I remember I was at High Point Prison. I was an insider there where you welcome people. One guy came in because he changed an iPhone 7 to an iPhone 8. And he got recalled. He spent more time on a recall because he had a different telephone than he declared than what he did for the original bloody offence.
And it was part of the stringent conditions.
This needs to be reviewed.
Well, look, they're merciless. And that point you made where you got the call about the late Ronnie Biggs to complain that he's not dead yet, that shows the barbarity and the inhumanity that many of these people have. That to them, those out on release or out on bail, they're just numbers, they're statistics. They're not even human beings, and that's very sad indeed. But it's not unusual.
It's a business now. Prison, Marcus, has become a business.
Yeah,
you got 250,000 meals per day. You know, food coming in, transport. It's become like America. It's no longer the criminal justice system. It's become a business. America has its own trains, its own planes, its own transport, its own telephone technology, its own canteen. They actually make a profit. Well, would you believe they make a profit? I mean,
well, look at Circle. Look at Circle. We're not going to go into mass, unlimited, unfettered immigration, but you look at the money that these companies make, who house them, transport them, feed them, clothe them, get their medical provisions taken care of. It is absolutely huge, and Italy's got this problem as well. But we won't go down that road.
We only got 50,000 prisoners. We only have 50,000 prisoners. You got 100,000.
Yeah, we've got 100,000.
But even that is now heavy. Yeah, it's extreme.
It is.
Of the 50,000, 25,000 are foreigners, are Albanians, Romanians, Moroccans, and now we've got half. You know, the foreigners. So,
would you rather that we just deport them straight away? Would you rather that they don't serve the crimes? Because it's very difficult for the families if they murder someone in England, and or a child, and rape a child. It's very difficult for the families to digest that they're not going to pay any, they're not going to get any penalties for that in this country. It's a tough one, Giovanni.
No, but let me tell you what is on the offing in Parliament there at the moment. They are passing a bill whereby foreign nationals will be sentenced in British courts to the sentence that they would have been receiving in their own country and deported within 45 days to serve that country. That is what is going through the Secretary of State. And Alex Chalk is right in doing this. You know, he is making agreements with different countries that where they have the high, where you are sentenced in this country. Because the biggest problem on the Repatriation of Prisoners Act is that you have to have a sentence equal to that you would have got in your own country. For example, in Holland, I repatriated Mulders and Van Herk, who were doing 14 years in this country for Class A drugs. But in Holland, they only did 4 years because that was a maximum sentence in line with that. So it's something very hard for the British to, you know, to sort of that they do a little bit of time in Britain and they go there and the next thing they see them on social media, you know, when they should. And incidentally, in Italy, a 14-year sentence, you do 3/4 of that. In England, you do half of that. So, you know,
how does that apply to countries with capital punishment?
Oh, that's
can we behead? Can we behead people? Well, I think a lot of people would take that deal. If you want to bring Sharia law in for someone that's raped and murdered your child, no, I'll take that deal. I'll take
Marcus,
that.
Listen,
and a happy Christmas.
Even for the devil's advocate, that's a step too far. I mean, listen, I'm controversial, but by God,
maybe your
protege.
I'm your protege.
I'm against capital punishment.
Well, we are against capital punishment, but I'm just making the point. If we have like for like, how does it apply to someone where the death penalty is the appropriate sentence? We'll send them to Rwanda.
We'll send them to Rwanda, which is where they will end up. They will find other countries. They will find that. There's a lot to be said for finding some islands and sticking people like they did in Australia. I remember when I was 12 years of age, I had a trip to Australia with the school there. And God, I'll tell you what, I got the beating of my life and my mother. Really? We paid 29 guineas then. We had family. But when I was interviewed by there, you know, now I was 12 years of age. One of the questions was, do you have a criminal record? I replied, I didn't think you still needed one. I was denied my visa. We lost £29 and my bum was red raw with kicks, beats. My face was black and blue with my mother. Because I was stupid enough to tell her what I'd said. That taught me a lesson. Be selective in the information that you give to people.
Well, that was a hard lesson. That's called tough love, Giovanni. That's called tough love
Or
from
what,
Mama.
Pete?
And Mama knows best. Mama knows
He
best.
does.
God bless her.
That.
God-
So
yeah.
I hope that you will play out a little bit of the Ti innamorerai, because he will love that. There,
Yes,
20
he will.
seconds of it there
We will.
when we play out there, and that's that's what I produce from here with my artists in London. It's a great song,
Yeah.
and even you might like it, and your wife might like it.
Well, indeed, as long as you promise not to do me for copyright infringement when I play it. Is that
It's
a
my
deal?
copyright, MGM Pi Pathé Records. I own
Well,
it,
that's a
so
deal.
it's down to me.
I've got that on record. That's a deal. I'm not going to be
You
banged
got
up
that
for
on
Christmas.
record.
Well, listen.
God bless.
God bless you, Giovanni Di Stefano. Thank you very much for being on Herd Immunity News. This is our crime special. But really, if I can say, the crime has been from the state to Charlie. That's the real crime in this occasion.
Correct.
And we hope and pray that he has a lovely Christmas. We send them all the best wishes from our followers and viewers. And we'll hope to hear good news in the near future.
And see you next week.
See you next week, dear friend.
God bless.
News. God bless. Ciao.
Ti innamorerai, forse non di me. Starai ferma lì e succederà da sé, da sé.
Sarà bello da guardare come un poster di James Dean. Sarà dolce la paura scangiandosi blue jeans.
Sarà grande come il mare, sarà forte come un dio, sarà il primo vero amore, quello che non sono io. Ti innamorerai
Di un bastardo che
ti dirà bugie
per portarti via da me.
And now, the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I say it clear, I state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway. But more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway. But more, much more than this, I did it my